Hello and welcome back around the Bonfire. It's the show that's just here so it won't get fined. It's great to have you back Monday evening here in Chicago as Chicago Fire victorious over Santos Laguna 3-1 last night at SeatGeek Stadium. John and Tim back. Tim, how are we feeling? Sounds like it was maybe the oddest press conference of your life, although I guess I don't know every press conference you've been in.
It was football heritage last night at SeatGeek Stadium. So because I think most people wouldn't know the story. Joe posted the complete press conference from Renato Paiva, which is in Spanish, but you can listen to because you know how like to learn a language, if you don't speak Spanish, it's useful to have repeated phrases and hear them over and over again. You will hear very close variations of Diorio's leg was almost broken. That is 3 of the 6 sentences that Renato Paiva said in his 6-sentence press conference when asked 3 separate questions.
Yeah, I mean, look, and credit to, I will say, to be fair to Paiva and Diorio, really, Jack Elliott really put the beans on his toast with that tackle. I think Joe Chats had posted it and Colin probably clipped it, like really like flirting with a red card there from Jack Elliott if you're not careful.
Look, it was also, and this is, I think, one of the conversations that I think maybe we should have. I normally think talking about the refs is not interesting, but I think it kind of is a little bit of something to talk about here. I did my like thoughts on the game that's up on Minute Red 97 that you can read, but this is one of them. I mean, I like my 2 rules for refs are like if they change the result with the decisions they make, or if the way that they call the game results in a player injury, which arguably neither was the case here, but it was close, and it just felt like he was not in control of the game at all. Like it very easily could have gotten very out of hand.
100%. We can circle back to that because I think there's more to talk about there when we would talk about maybe especially that first half. Let's dive into a little bit of news before we talk about the game that was. First and foremost, if you did not get an email earlier today, you're missing out. The hotline officially launched. It's our weekly newsletter that'll be delivered directly to your email inbox. If you go to menandred97.com, you can click the subscribe button. That'll let you put in your email, make a little account with us, and we'll keep you updated there. Completely free. We're not intending to sell your data at any point. It's purely so we can stay as connected as possible and keep you up to date as best we're able. With that, we'll also, Tim, remind me later, we'll put a link in the description because I did notice people commenting on YouTube saying, hey, where's the link? So we'll put a link to do so in the description of the video, but also you can just go menandred97.com. There's a big red button that says subscribe at the top right. Click that. Very easy process.
It takes literally 2 seconds, and unsubscribing, there's a link to do it in every single newsletter. So if you don't like what you see, 1 click, maybe 2 clicks, and you're out.
I did change some things on the back end there, Tim. It's actually about 17 clicks, and you do have to send in a personalized video message explaining to me why you are no longer subscribed to the hotline. It needs to be 4 minutes.
Are you
minimum.
opening a gym?
Did you? Okay. The funniest thing, my stepfather's a member at Planet Fitness. He has the Black Card membership. We're talking about it. I look into it. One of the perks of the Black Card membership, it says literally cancel anytime. Like that's crazy to me. Like that's a perk of paying more money every month is that you get to not do it anymore. Just insanity to me. I don't know.
The question is, can you actually, or is it like cancel, just come over here, get this signed by like the Pope, 2 Nobel Prize winners, and God. Well,
hey,
and
you
then
know
as
what?
soon as that
The Pope one at least just got a little easier, I will say.
Well, look, there's a lot more people that got a Pope hat in Chicagoland because of the Sox now. So
yeah, there will be. Yeah. It's from when we're recording. It's tomorrow. So if you're listening this morning of release, you can still buy a ticket to the White Sox game and get a Pope hat because they changed it to everybody who buys a ticket gets a Pope hat, which, by the way, just incredible. Like pure marketing genius. I know it's like a low bar for them, but like that was just like chef's kiss outstanding, personally.
Absolutely. Yep.
Love it. All right, let's get into the actual news now. The only real thing of note here that we'll talk about today, our colleague Alex Calabrese reporting earlier this weekend, German international Leon Goretzka is still without a club, and it sounds like interest has significantly cooled off in Europe given his salary demands. The numbers Alex was throwing around were around $7 million a year with a $10 million signing bonus, which does obviously put MLS, specifically Chicago Fire, and potentially some kind of Middle Eastern move back on the table as the window drags on. Tim, anything you want to add? I have a little bit of a take I'd like to get off, so I'll let you approach it first.
Yeah, that lines up with the numbers that I've heard from his camp and the expectations. Trying to speak carefully about this a little bit. People that are close to Goretzka have indicated that when he was initially approached about this idea, was not interested. He was not uninterested. He gave it sort of like a polite consideration, but it wasn't really something that was appealing to him. And this includes after Lewandowski joined. He wanted to stay in Europe. I don't think a Middle Eastern move was in the cards for a variety of reasons, including, from a number of different clubs. They just haven't been spending money, and a number of players that were linked to the Middle East did not go because it seems like that business model has changed very quickly. Not entirely, unlike for very different reasons, but what happened with the Chinese Super League when you were a kid, I think, John.
How old do you think I am, Tim?
I mean, this was like 15 years ago now. Like,
I was in high school.
Yeah, a kid.
All right.
We'll talk more about what the dividing line is to be an adult in a minute when we're talking about the game. But look, so that is where the state of play is. Nobody seems interested in Goretzka. I think the question is, do you want a player that doesn't really want to be there and that nobody else wants? Because that doesn't seem like a winning strategy. What I have been from asking around, my understanding of the Fire strategy here is that now, for the first time ever, the MLS transfer window is open later than the transfer window in most countries in Europe. It's open a couple days later than I believe it is even in Mexico, which stays open a little later. I think it's open later than Turkey by a day or two as well, which is one of those other countries that has gotten guys to sign by being sort of like the last available chair playing a game of musical chairs. Now MLS is in that position, and my understanding is the Fire believe that he would be available then and will just want to sign with somebody, and then it's them, and they've got negotiating power. I don't love that strategy for a variety of reasons, and we'll see what ends up coming to pass. I mean, Goretzka could end up being a very good player for the Fire, and it could be one of those things where he is not interested in coming until he's here, then he loves it. That happens all the time with guys, but it's not promising so far.
Yeah. So 2 thoughts really quick. Three. One, good reporting, Tim. Way to go. Way to be good at your job. Just positive reinforcement, just in case. 2, I mean, he is a free agent, right? So hypothetically speaking, he doesn't have quite the same restrictions, I suppose, as somebody else looking for a move. I don't know how much. It would maybe depend on the country, but regardless, not really as much of an impact there, I guess. But 3, and this is you said it there, right? I had a thought. I'm driving around earlier today, and it kind of popped into my head and it crystallized. Why do you want this guy? I don't know that he's good enough to warrant he doesn't want to be here, so let's give him $15 million so he wants to be here. Like, man, look, and it
may not be 15 million, right? Like a
no,
lot.
And I'm pulling that number out of my ass.
Sure, or
Sorry,
like the high 7-figure salary and significant signing fee that he wants.
Well, exactly.
Like, I can want to make $10 million in my next job, and that's not going to happen. Goretzka's probably going to be making a lot closer to it than I will, but you lose negotiating power at that point.
Well, I guess the point I'm reaching for is I didn't love the Kevin De Bruyne signing at the time for a lot of reasons, or potential Kevin De Bruyne signing, but there was an effect of that, right? Where you said, if you're Kevin De Bruyne and you're being offered, I don't know what he's actually making, but let's just say $3 million by Napoli and $5 million in Chicago, and it's kind of a toss-up. You like both ideas, and okay, an extra $2 million, let's do that. That to me is fine, right? I don't question your motives. I don't question your motivation. Anybody, a reasonable person in 2 roughly equal situations would make that decision. I think if you're Leon Goretzka and you're being told, hey, you're going to get maybe $3 million a year here and a small signing bonus, or you can get $8 million a year with the signing bonus you want in Chicago, that's asking for trouble. That's asking for Xherdan Shaqiri 2.0. And I don't mean to cast aspersions on a guy who has given me no reason to, but the longer this goes on, the less I like the idea. Like, I don't like
Also,
Mauricio Pochettino,
to be clear,
but if you don't want to be here, don't come.
there's no offers for $3 million right now for Leon Goretzka.
No,
right?
I'm just pulling numbers
sure.
out of
I know, but like that, what I'm saying is, it's not a question of he's not liking the numbers he's getting. It's that he's not getting numbers, and you can take that how you will, including like, if somebody says something on and there's like, I'll take this or best offer, you don't offer them $2 when they're expecting like tens of thousands, right? Like that's not going to work. But look, it's not promising, and my biggest thing is I don't think that is he really fills the Fire's most direct or important position of need right now. And I think Lewandowski didn't fill the Fire's most direct position of need. Again, I think we will know at some point whether Lewandowski performs in ways better than Hugo Kuiper's was or worse or what that is. That's going to take, literally years to actually sort out. But that's the move that was made. And now you have the big name. I don't think Leon Goretzka, there is one ticket that move will sell. And Goretzka can't stand the guy. So it doesn't have the same commercial appeal. And it's not a position of need. And so I don't understand the signing. I understand that having a player he is better than anyone, like he has been better in his career than anyone the Fire have in their midfield right now. Like that's just true.
Yes. I
don't know if that's true right now. I don't know if that's going to be true in a year and a half when the Fire could realistically be competing for multiple trophies. And I think that there are other positions where the Fire could realistically use a DP player that would make a big impact.
Well, and frankly, Tim, part of this was spurred by me thinking about how well Sergio Orhel has played, and we'll get to that obviously as we talk about the game. But it was kind of this moment of like, really? Like we're going to spend 35 times what this guy costs? And look, obviously nobody's saying Sergio Orhel is better than Leon Goretzka in a vacuum, but it's like, could you use that same amount of money on a better player at a more important position who maybe is more interested in being here? Like that was one of the great things about Andre Franco at the time was like, he wanted to be here. He wanted to come join the project and build something. And to Robert Lewandowski's credit, though we don't know kind of what the long-term outlook of that will be, he seems excited to be here. Right? He seems invested in winning something and continuing his legacy here, not just cashing what I'm sure is a paycheck that feels very good to cash. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that does set a good bar. And the fact that they know each other, I think, is one thing that would, if the signing happens, would make me feel slightly better about it, in that he can help sell that idea of the project. And look, a lot of players, like we saw this with Kevin De Bruyne last year, like they want to stay in Europe because they have visions of winning the Champions League, right? Like, and that's a fair aspiration. It's not going to be the reality for most even very good players that play the game, just because you need to be in the right place in the right time. And even very good players and very good teams don't always lift that trophy.
Yeah. Well put. Let's talk about the actual game now, right? The thing people, I assume, click to hear. Chicago Fire ends up victorious after a game that seemed like it might slip away for a pretty good chunk there. Ezekiel, I should have looked up how to pronounce his name and I didn't. Balade scores as Chris Brady comes out of his goal in the 20th minute. And to that point, it felt like it had been all Santos Laguna really for the first half, and even into some of the second, it felt like they were winning every matchup. The Fire come on late. 3 goals after the 70th minute. Philip Zinkernagel opens the scoring. Robin Ludd technically scores the second goal. We'll get into that, I'm sure. And then Robert Lewandowski with the dagger in the 90th +3. All in all, I mean, look, not exactly how you'd like to do it, but a win is a win. 3 points is 3 points. And a positive 2-goal differential helps the case as well.
Look, the Fire made 7 changes from the starting 11 that started last Thursday, and that's positive. I mean, and 6 of the guys that were in this starting lineup, arguably, I mean, depending on how exactly you count, guys like Martin Haile-Selassie, who's been kind of in and out a little bit, Leo Barroso, who's like nominally a starter, but hasn't been starting because of injuries. It's still significant turnover. So I don't hate that they didn't look that strong in the first half, because they were able to come through and like get the result that they needed. But at first, when I was first thinking about the game, I was thinking first half. Thinking about it more, there was that 65th minute where Gutman has that like last ditch tackle to like basically direct the ball, like get, a clear goal scoring opportunity. Like if that had been a card, that would have been a penalty kick and that could have been game. Did an excellent job with that. And then 2 minutes later, Santos hit the woodwork for the second time that game. After that is when the game switched. And so that's like, you're looking past the 67th minute. And so that's really when the second group of subs, in Puso Titijan and Robin Lod came on and the tide turned. But it wasn't really until then.
Yeah, you mean Puso Titijan, Tim. Sorry, and I don't know if you were listening.
Oh my God. Yeah, and Steve Cangelosi, who I have so much respect for, calling him, I kept on hearing the Tejan, like someone whose first name is Tejan that goes by I'm not just Tejan, I'm the Tejan.
At least that was like close though. Like that's just more like an emphasis thing. Detayan is, I don't know, I can't even do it. Anyway, no, you're right. And look, I think Joel Waterman, had a pretty good game, all things considered. Maybe one or two big mistakes in there, but he had a similar game-saving tackle earlier late in the first half,
and did a great job, like playing the ball through pressure and stuff like that. Like really strong performance. He gets the yellow at the end. I think that's frustration. I don't hate that he got the yellow, to be honest. I think
it's not league.
Center back's going to center back.
He's not going to accumulate enough yellow cards for it to matter. Like, it'll be fine. Watch him now accumulate enough yellow cards for it to matter.
Yes, no, but challenge accepted.
Joel, please don't do that if you're listening. Marin, if I know you watch our stories, I'm going to clip this and post it on the story. Tell Joel not to do that. No, I agree with you. I think that the concerning thing, one thing we haven't shouted out, Robert Turdean made his first start for Chicago Fire, becomes the youngest player to do so at 16 years and like 94 days or something like that. I think I might have the days wrong.
Yeah, you do have the days wrong. I can look them up. And it's a couple of months. He's a couple of months younger than Christopher Cupps was, which holds the record still for MLS because this is a separate competition. But it's still, look, what an accomplishment. And it's kind of funny that I wanted to mention him earlier, then it just kind of slipped my mind. Greg called us out last year during Cup's debut for not bringing up Cupps early enough in the press conference. And he called us out for not having it as the first question. And by us, I just mean Joe, because he was the only one that asked the question before Greg mentioned it. So yeah, if you're ever in a press conference with Greg Berhalter and a 16-year-old starts, ask.
Yeah. Slightly different performances, I would say, for Robert Turdean and Christopher Cupps. Like, I will say, for Robert, I had a couple people ask me who didn't watch the game, like, what did you think of the performance? And it was like, look, for a 16-year-old starting against a team with a very aggressive press, playing a very physical style of defense, he was fine. It's impressive that he made the start.
207 days, by the way.
It was like 90 days younger. That's where I got 90 from.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, it was a fine performance. I will say, I think part of the switch that we saw in the second half came from Sergio Arrejel coming on for him, being a little more active in the game and frankly, just being a little more comfortable, which is not a knock against Turdean at all. Look, it's his first action with grown men. He's allowed to not be perfect.
And I think, look, he's listed at 5'7" and 135 pounds. That is what he is in cleats to the top of his hair, and if he's carrying a bag of groceries.
And he's got poofy hair.
And which, look, so in some ways, right, this is a very physical game. Like, the Fire were getting muscled off the ball all kinds of times in the first half. So that is literally the worst case scenario, to have a skilled player who is like one of those 16, almost 17-year-olds who doesn't look like he's anywhere near finished growing yet, to step into things, right? And he didn't look intimidated by the moment. And I think that says a lot.
That's what I was about to say. He looked comfortable as he could be. And you still saw flashes. You saw nice moments, which for a guy in his position, that's exactly what you want. You want him to not look intimidated by, again, a very physical, very aggressive side in Santos, albeit not the most talented. And he still made, at times, nice moves. You saw some of the skill put on display. He was playing a little differently than I would have expected. I mean, he's playing kind of in the way Greg Berhalter likes his creative midfielders to play, and that he was dropping deep to help build up, which, as far as I'm aware, is not typically where he would play, like with Fire 2. And he looked comfortable there, which I thought said a lot.
He got back and did some pretty good stuff positioning wise on defense, and when Santos would get away on the counter and stuff. Like it was overall pretty like a great performance for just adjusting for all of those things that we talked about. And the nicest thing is from now on, like next time he can like, go like a grizzled old man and be like, this ain't my first rodeo, but that legitimately counts for something.
Oh, 100%. And look, I don't know that we'll see him again this year, but I hope he gets some more opportunities. He'll be fun to watch with Fire too for the rest of the year, certainly.
Honestly, with the number of Wednesday, Saturday games, like I wouldn't be surprised to see him in minutes. I'm not sure that it will be another start. I would be surprised if it was another start anytime soon. But I think that him getting minutes to get him more comfortable into different game states and situations and help acclimate him more. And, maybe ask him to make some kind of a contribution in the right situations. I don't think that that's out of the question. He can play in as many Leagues Cup games as the Fire can play in. And then up to 6 league games this year under his contract. Well, not under his contract, under his roster designation.
And Tim, this is, I think, irrelevant because I'd be shocked if it happens, but they could hypothetically sign him to a different deal.
It's not the deal. It's just where he is on the roster. It's the same deal.
Yeah. Oh, so with with Bokazi's injury, they could hypothetically move him into just a supplemental roster slot. Is that right?
Would need to look at the details of his contract. It would be a senior roster. They would need an open roster slot for it, which they don't have in the supplemental roster. There's one on the senior roster. There would need to be roster moves around to facilitate that, but that could in theory happen.
It's not going to happen.
I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's going to be 6 or fewer appearances in MLS this year, and I honestly think that that's enough for him to take a step forward. What he needs to do with whatever opportunities he has, whether here or with Next Pro, is to make the case that he should not be on this roster designation next year because because there is a sporting case, not a marketing case, not anything else, for him to be playing more than 6 matches.
100%, right? And that's the hope is, I don't expect him to be starting in games next year, but could he be a midweek option? Could he be playing in Open Cup games? Could he be Let's hope the Fire qualify for CONCACAF Champions Cup. You're going to need somebody to fill some of those minutes either on the league side or on the cup side early in the year. Let's hope he can kind of fill into that role nicely next year.
So last beat on this, it did occur to me, there were 2 Roberts that started in this one. Robert Turdean, who wears number 37 and is 16, and Robert Lewandowski, who is 37.
Very true. I'll say this. If you're Robert Turdean, are you banging on the door to try and get in for the Cruz Azul game? Because in back-to-back League Cups games, you've had somebody whose first name is Robert score a goal.
Right? Every Robert on the team other than him has scored. So
there you go, Tim. I like this.
So this is one of those reasons that I could never have been a professional athlete for reasons that are not just related to my inability to play sports anywhere near that level. I would totally be like the Homer Simpson in the bushes meme for that game of like, nope, you guys take this one. I'm not walking into that cement mixer, thanks.
There was a kind of the Fire posted a picture of Robert Turdean and Robert Lewandowski after the game. 2 Roberts, 21 years apart or whatever it was. And it's like the funniest thing because Robert Lewandowski is like ecstatic, obviously happy they won, scored the goal. And then you look at Robert Turdean and he's just like chilling. He's low-key kind of mogging Robert Lewandowski. Did I do that right? Am I young?
I am too old to be able to tell you that. As far as I know,
I turn 30 next week, Tim. This is tough for me.
He was kind of doing that in the press conference too. Like I asked him like what his reaction was when he found out that he wasn't just going to be playing but starting, and he was basically like, "Yeah, I was pretty relaxed about it." Like that's literally his words. He's like, "Let me look it up." At first, I was pretty relaxed, but also excited. I knew what I had to do. It was pretty clear from the start. It's like, dude's too cool for school.
He Googled Liga MX 2026 Clausura table, found Santos Laguna, and he was like, I'll be fine. It'll be okay. No, look, okay, let's talk more about the game that was, right? You mentioned Fire really getting out physical in the first half, kind of getting pushed around the field to the point where I think around halftime I texted Alex Campbell, friend of the show from CHGO, this game needs somebody like Kellen Acosta to maybe step up and push some buttons and get in people's faces. I feel like it's been a little bit of a common theme with this team. They don't really have any dogs on the roster, at least not that are really seeing minutes. And even in the second half, the tone didn't really change. They just started scoring goals. Part of that, I think we would both attribute to the refereeing of the game. Did that concern you at all? Because it did kind of sit with me a little awkward.
So a few things on that. One, I think in Bokasi is that I think Joel Waterman did a good job of standing up to the challenge in that game. So it's not no dogs, but I think that they don't have enough dogs. And they don't have someone who is going to get into the CONCACAFery of it all in the same way. Joel can do a little bit of that, but not as much as Kellen Acosta could.
Am I crazy, or does that guy kind of need to be a midfielder?
Yeah, it does help a lot for them to be in, because you want them to be in someone's face, and you don't want it to be someone where if they get sent off, like what you don't want them to do, but where it would change the game.
You lose a lot of deniability when you run 40 yards to get in somebody's face, I think.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And sorry, what was your question about the refereeing again?
Oh, no, just how much of that do you weigh on the Fire's personnel, and how much of that do you weigh on the way the game was refereed? Because look, I think I said to you after the game, it didn't feel partial, but it did feel bad. And I think
felt
that's
bad.
fair.
It was the referee. None of us had heard of the referee before, which is a little odd. He had refereed in one CONCACAF World Cup qualifying game between like Antigua and another. I mean, another lesser populated. I mean, we're not talking about two teams that were realistically going to make the World Cup, right? It wasn't the final round of World Cup qualifying. That was the biggest game that he'd refereed in before this. It seemed like he was just kind of in over his head with it. Some like CONCACAF U20 games and stuff here and there, some Caribbean Cup games. Biggest game for him. He did not seem to be there for the moment. I don't think that that's what was happening with the physicality. I think that was always going to be the way this game was played. You looked at just like the profiles of the teams, the profiles of the players, the way that they were going to come into this game. You know, one of the things, the pitch quality at SeatGeek is not great. There was one spot where everybody was slipping and sliding like they had like oiled the thing up. But the grass is always kind of long at SeatGeek. It's also like it's dense, and so the ball plays slower than it does. It's like the opposite of what happens on like fake turf, right, where the ball's like moves quicker on it. And I think the Fire were having a little bit of a couple difficulties here and there adapting. Like the passes didn't quite land where they were. The ball was too slow. Passes weren't as fast and as crisp. Santos had none of those issues. So I don't know what they practice on at home, but like it seemed like it was probably a lot closer to this than what the Fire were used to, and they looked perfect on it. I think that was responsible for some of the way that the Fire were unable to get to things as quickly as possible, which meant that their skill couldn't show the way that they needed it to. So when they did have the ball, they were a little bit slower. They weren't where they wanted to be. They weren't far up the pitch. They weren't creating spaces and overloads in places, and they would just get muscled off the ball because there were like three dudes there.
Does it feel weird to you that the Fire weren't prepared for that, given they played at SeatGeek 3 days ago or 3 days before?
A lot of the same guys didn't, and it was an issue then. I mean, you train every day, right? And you play once a week, and it's, look, everyone will tell you it's the same for every team. That's true on the night, but there's familiarity with it, right? And I think that not having that surface available ever to practice on is maybe a little bit more of a hindrance now than it was back when the Fire trained there. Still a major step forward. I don't think Robert Lewandowski shows up in Chicago if it was to SeatGeek, to train every day.
100%.
And look, in 2 years from now, less than 2 years, like 23 months from now, the Fire will be on a surface exactly like the one that they train on at their new stadium. So won't be an issue.
Love to see it. Let's talk a little more midfield here as we kind of work through the game. Tim, look, first half was tough, right? In part because, again, give them all the credit you can, but Robert Turdean not as functional in the offense as others have been, just limited minutes, first appearance, all that kind of stuff.
I just think that the way that the Fire were playing and that the spacing was off, everything was going, like every single time the Fire got something forward, it was wide. And then by the time they got it there were 4 Santos players around that guy who's like standing on the touchline. So there's nowhere for him to go except either back or, forward. It was rough. So I do wonder, I think Sergio Orahel was better than Robert Turdean. I do wonder if if Turdean had stayed, because Greg told us after it's because they thought he didn't really have that much longer in him at this level, which is fair. Not because of the way he was playing, basically. I do think that Turdean would have started looking better if he had come on in those later moments because of the other things that changed in the game states around him.
Fair. What I was going to get at though was this Leagues Cup has felt like a true blue resurgence for Anton Zeletros, right? Awarded the game ball from Greg Berhalter, credited with an assist for what should have been what was, in my opinion, outstanding
what should have been his first goal in a Fire uniform. Yeah, he just was robbed of that. Like, man, look, I have thought that he's been playing well throughout the year. I get why people didn't, because we were not seeing him in his best light. This is him a lot closer to his best light, and the formation is working. The players around him are working better, and it's been really good to see. Like, he has been the Fire's best player through the 2 games now. Like, part of that is just because he's the guy that has been there for most of both of the games, right? And so he's like in a better position to do it. But yeah, he's looked fantastic. I think Sergio Orahel has been like, he's looked better now than he did last year when he got over 2,000 minutes, and that's good to see. Marin, like, it was like Puso comes on, like Zink comes on, Marin just switches to the left as if that's where he's been playing. Like, that is his preferred side, but for his versatility and being able to do that in game, I thought was really valuable. So the entire attacking group, I think, was good. I thought, look, you're not going to complain too much about a game where they give up 1 goal and like 1 goal from the Fire's past 3 games now. I thought Joel Waterman looked really good. We know Jack is playing on a bit of some kind of a minor injury. And I thought Gutman's looked good when he's there. The back line, I think, has maybe not been as great with some of the depth options, and I'm not sure where Leo Barroso lies in that, because he has not looked like he's 100% since he's come back.
I do think part of Leo's issue, A, right, he's coming back from injury. B, I don't think he's a player that's meant to play at SeatGeek Stadium. Like he can't stay on his feet. He's somebody who likes to have the ball at his feet, who likes to move. And I think part of it is just the turf does not suit him. And maybe also the injury, and he is somebody who relies really heavily on his athleticism. Like, I'll be honest, like, there was a part of his game yesterday that really bothered me. Chris Brady, obviously to blame for the lone goal. I'm not going to try and pin that on anybody else. But if you're Leo Barroso and you see Chris Brady way off his line and you're jogging towards the back post, that's not a good look. I'm sorry. Like, look, was he going to get there? Probably not. You can't jog that, man. Like, you got to be on a beeline to do something.
And honestly, I'm not 100% sure what Leo Barroso's. My point is, I don't know what his top speed is right now. I'm also not 100% sure that that's on Chris, because he was trying to bail out a really difficult situation that happened ahead of him. He made the wrong call with that, but he did not. He was trying to pick up a mess that somebody else had made.
Fair. That's fair. I was maybe being overly harsh on Chris, but I don't know. I was really mean to Matt Freese, so I have to kind of be fair about it now. You know what I mean?
Fairness is not just giving equal criticism when it's not deserved.
That's incorrect, Tim. Actually, fairness is just being mean all the time. No. Look, I think looking back, it did feel a little like the Fire were kind of lucky to squeak away with one. But at the same time, really, after that first goal came, you felt like the other 2 were coming. Tim, we put it out in the newest, well, in the only to this point edition of the Hotline today. Just kind of an explainer on the standings of the Leagues Cup as it is. The Fire currently sit in a spot that qualifies for the quarterfinals, but you look at everybody around them, just about everyone else is playing teams with no chance of advancing. Fire playing Cruz Azul, who are also on 6 points and a low goal differential, meaning they probably need to win to advance. It feels like going into this final game against Cruz Azul, it's win or go home in some ways. It's entirely possible they could draw, win the shootout in advance, but it does feel like it may be a win or go home for Chicago.
Yeah, and they're also facing the only opponent where that's the case as well, right? I mean, their chances, Cruz Azul's chances of advancing are higher without a win than the Fire, just because of the way the tables are lined up. But most of the other teams that are sitting on 5-6 points are facing teams that are eliminated. So I mean, I just don't know. Like, it's tough. Now, at the same time, it's beautifully simple, right? Like, you win the game in front of you, and both teams know what they need to do.
Yeah, no, well put. And the Fire do have the benefit they'll be playing the only other MLS team that could advance that is likely to advance playing around the same time as the Fire's Austin. So you will kind of know what you need going into that game to move on. It does feel like you're kind of looking back at that first game like that's the lineup you should be rolling out.
Also, for what it's worth, of the teams that are on 6 points, I mean, it honestly just feels like the Fire are the best team out of those, right? Out of Austin, Charlotte, Cincinnati, Columbus, and Dallas. If you had to pick one team to say which one of these is most likely to just beat X, you're probably picking the Fire unless it's like a very specific set of circumstances, right?
Sure, but it is to the point we made earlier, right? It's a little more about the opponent than about the team itself, right?
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, the Fire are a capable team. Like, what I'm trying to say is I am very surprised with where Cincinnati are in this tournament, right? And so I would not be surprised if they lost because of who they are, right? Like that. No, like, I'm not trying to be offensive here. It just is like that. Like, they have
they're
not
a little
had
bit,
a very,
they're a little bit 2025 Fire,
and they've got DP center backs that are like they've been kind of rough in some ways, and I would not like. I just think water finds its level sooner or later, and I think that the Fire, sometimes you try to overshoot that. And maybe the Fire beating Cruz Azul is asking to overshoot that. But I think some of the other teams like Austin, Cincinnati, Columbus, like they are overshooting their level right now with the 6 points that they've got. And so it's not the chances of those teams winning 3 games in a row in any competition against any set of opponents is just going to be a little bit lower.
You know what's going to happen now, right? They're all going to win and the Fire are going to be eliminated with 9 points just because you said that.
Well, that's the other thing, right? Of like, if they are rolling out B teams, if their opponents are rolling out B teams for this third round, do you need some insane goal differential?
I think that's part. Look, that's got to be part of the calculus. We haven't talked about Jason Shukaluk not being on the bench. I don't want to spend time on it, but I didn't expect Robert Lewandowski to go the full 90 plus. I know you didn't because you said he's probably not going to go 60, or something to that effect in the pregame.
Yeah, I was surprised. He wanted to stay out. He stayed out. I thought he looked good. I mean, obviously he was involved enough to be getting a goal in the 93rd minute of stoppage time or something like that. He had an opportunity that he skied it like Kasper Schbilka would sky it from like point blank range at SeatGeek in what was like the 82nd, 83rd minute. That's going to happen to everybody, right?
Not
3 goals in his past 3 games. I mean, people like, this is going to be a meme amongst Fire fans where it's like there's like that old like improv like sketch kind of trope thing that you do where it's like you just like describe some guy as being so awesome, like he could hit a goal from 900 yards with his back to the
So the way baseball fans talk about Babe Ruth, is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, basically
something like that. I will say that maybe the funniest thing I've ever seen was the half and half faces of Kasper Schbilka and Robert Lewandowski. I laughed at that for more than a few minutes. Shout out whoever made that. I feel like it was Logan, but I don't remember. It killed me. It really did.
I just hate all the Thomas Frankowski erasure.
Well, Tim, now Robert Lewandowski has officially scored more goals than Thomas Frankowski.
That's true, but not in MLS.
True. For Chicago Fire, yes. In MLS, they're still tied for now. Somehow, some way, Robert Lewandowski ends his Chicago Fire career with 2 goals. Jesus Christ. Also more than Olivier Giroud. Am I getting that right? Yeah. Way to go. Way to go,
if
Big
not,
Bob.
It feels right.
Turns out that wasn't
the flex that people thought it would be.
That was my favorite stat from, I think, 2024. Jonathan Dean finished the year with more goals than Olivier Giroud. That was special to me. That meant something to me, Tim. Look, we are rambling at this point. I do want to, before we go, do a little man of the match because this has been light on tactics talk for a game that was, 70 minutes of kind of nothing and then 25 minutes of something a lot of fun. Curious. Curious sorry, I lost my train of thought. Curious your man of the match.
I mean, I'm going to say Anton. Like, I know he got the coach's ball and all that. I thought Anton just was good for the full, like, he came out early, but he was good on when the Fire were not playing as well. And he was good at part of the reason that dam broke. I think Zinkernagel would probably be my second if you told me I couldn't choose the guy that, Greg also gave the game ball to. So, yeah, I just, like, Saletros has been doing a lot of things really well. It just has not, I think, been the stuff that you necessarily notice or see. And now he's doing the stuff that you notice and see. Except scoring a goal because, I don't know, the soccer gods are mad at him or something.
Exactly. Very, very well deserved. Certainly earned. Maybe this is crazy. I know it was only, 30 minutes of play. I'm going to go Puso Titajan. I mean, look, involved directly on both goals. He doesn't get credit for either just because of the way those shook out, but he comes on, he contributes into both those two early goals. And look, frankly, he's just been fantastic. There's no other way around it. He's just been a very good player.
He's been a difference maker every single time he's been on the pitch, and he injects this element of chaos that I think the Fire's attack, as good as it's been a lot of the time, has sometimes lacked, right? He can do dynamic, unpredictable things. He's also just fun to watch. You know what I mean? He's going to play and he's the Fire are going to win some of those games and are going to draw some of those games. They're going to lose some of those games. You're going to have fun watching him either way. He's just that kind of player.
It is one of those moments, a lot of people, I've seen this sentiment repeatedly of Puso is a great bench option, which I get, and I don't disagree. He does have something that, God love him, even Jonathan Bamba doesn't really bring right now, which is just his ability on the ball to create out of nothing and to find those little holes to work into. He has a lot of Brian Gutierrez in that way, right? Where it's he just sees the field well and he can make these passes that you're like, how did you even get that there? So it's a lot of fun.
Quick beat on Bamba. I thought Bamba had a pretty solid match. He just didn't have a match that influenced. And he just looks snake bit, man. He just needs some goal to go in some way to get his confidence back because he's been playing well. It just has not been.
That was not an anti-Jonathan Bamba thing. I think Jonathan Bamba's been good since the second half restarted. I thought he was good last night.
I wasn't taking it that way. I'm just saying that.
No, I'm just
calling out his performance because I think it was a good performance. It's just he just needs something to go right for him right now, and it just needs to happen. Whatever random way it happens.
I think once the dam breaks, it's going to break heavy. It'll start flowing, and I wouldn't be shocked if he has one and then he has a few. To that end, though, I think the interesting topic kind of going into Cruz Azul, we talked about some of the stakes behind it. We talked maybe about what the Fire need, and I guess the question is, how do you get there, right? And I'm thinking, looking back at these two games, you saw a pretty fluctuated lineup. You get an extra day's rest here. Tim, it kind of feels like you're going really with that game one lineup with a few tweaks here or there. I would expect Jonathan Dean back into the starting 11. I'd probably expect Jonathan Bamba. I expect to see Jay Davila, Sergio Orhel, and Anton Saletros. They're calling it the sod midfield. Dose. There we go, the Dose midfield. What else? DOS? That's DOS. I meant to say ODS. Halo 3 ODS, right? Is that what it's called?
Okay.
Anyway, what are you looking for on Thursday night in terms of who actually takes the field?
Yeah, I think that's it. Robert Lewandowski has to start, and you have to have him ready to go for a long time, right? I mean, no, just because I think that would not have been obvious to me going into the tournament that was going to have to shake out. I think it is now, just with how he's played and the fact that he went the full 90 plus whatever. It would be a shame if even getting the goal that reduces availability on Thursday, and I don't think it will. I think it's got to be Zink. I would not I would like to see Puso starting. I don't know if that's where Greg is, but I hope that it's there. The only reason I think I'd be okay if that wasn't the case is maybe if they think that just because of him not having gone that long if they were concerned about him being able to last the distance if needed.
And I do like him over Jonathan Bamba on the bench, right? Like if you're bringing one of those guys as a sub, I'd rather bring Puso as a sub.
Yeah, exactly. Because he brings that dynamic in. Like he was a game changing sub in this one. Zinkernagel too, and like the subs at half. I don't think that performance changes if it wasn't for all five of the guys that changed. We talked about the other names like Anton has to start. I think that we'll see Jay again in this one. I think you need like your best ground covering defensive midfielder in it. The question is who starts along them in the midfield. And before the tournament started, I would have said. I probably would have said Robin Lod. I now am kind of thinking Sergio Orihel can probably do more of the things that you need if you feel confident in Jay's ability to cover that ground in a way that the Fire didn't entirely have someone doing. Andrew Gutman, has the goal, helps create in this one in the second half. It was I didn't see a lot that I really loved from Radojevich, but I don't know how much that's him, how much of it's game state and stuff like that. I just, I would be fine if he didn't see the pitch on Thursday. I mean, just to be frank with it, I think he will get opportunities in minutes going forward. We know it's going to be Joel. We know it's going to be Jack.
Now, the real question, Tim, Josh Cohen or Jeff Gall?
Yeah.
Tough to say.
Well, that's a worthy discussion. Not necessarily of which of them is going to start because it's not going to be either. We know it's going to be Brady, but right in this one, you didn't have Jason Shukaluk on the bench, and the Fire. Robin Lod was the backup striker option. He ended up playing kind of more in a midfield role, and I think that worked well. And he plays there. He can play there. He can play on the wing. There wasn't a dedicated striker option on the bench because the Fire had two goalkeepers on the bench, and I think you've got 12 men on the bench in this tournament, which is weird. MLS is 9. I get if you don't have anyone else put in 3 goalies, but I also think you just need a backup striker. But having said that, the other position that's actually interesting that we didn't talk about, at right wing or right wing back, I think you start Jonathan Dean. I mean, he played very well last Thursday. We know what he can do, and frankly, it just is a floor ceiling calculation. And with where he is in his recovery from injury, it feels like Leo's not anywhere close to his ceiling.
Well, and this is, look, with all due respect to Santos Laguna and Necaxa, this is the team that can punish you, right? And the last thing you need is, even at his best, Leo Barroso has the ability to be caught out. Now, normally it's kind of a TLB situation where he can kind of work his way back. He has the speed, he has the recovery. If he's not at 100%, that turns into a liability very quickly against a team that knows how to exploit it. And say what you will about Jonathan Dean, that's not his game, right? He's not somebody who's going to get caught out typically. And frankly, he's looked really comfortable in attack in 2026. So it's like,
what a wild thing to say, but he's had good combinations. He's been the best one so far at reliably getting crosses in to Robert Lewandowski. Like, yeah, well, part of that's because when in times when it's been him and Zink and Lewandowski on at the same time, like Zink has normally kind of been cutting in and occupying other spaces, and but still, it just is, that is a ludicrous thing to be saying, and yet it's something that I'm saying and that I mean.
Well, yeah, and he's also, frankly, he and Andrew Gutman are the vets in the room, right? And that goes a long way in terms of understanding the system and understanding how to play with an MLS team, right? Like if you watch back the Necaxa game, he is in positions to score all night. It just finally found him when it did, right? So he's played well. I don't expect him to be left that wide open, certainly not after he put that goal on tape. Seriously, go back and watch it. It was clinical. He and Andrew Gutman both showing off far more than they should. But yeah, I agree with you. I think he'll be in the 11 come Thursday night.
And then that means, on the bench, like you hopefully would have Jason Shukaluk as a striker option, and one of either, like Bamba or Marin Haile-Selassie, depending on who's starting there. Robin Lod maybe on the bench, or I wouldn't hate it if we saw him starting for Sergio. I don't think that's as good, but Robin Lod has played well this tournament, and I think that, Fire fans are finally starting to see why people loved him so much in Minnesota.
He's been valuable off the bench too. Talk about it. And it might have been you who said this, so I apologize if it was Tim. If not, it was somebody else I was talking to. But he is somebody who just seems to have a good connection with Robert Lewandowski. They just seem to know where the other guy's going to be. He's the only one of the forwards that hasn't crashed into Robert Lewandowski going up for a header. Now, part of that is Robin Lod, not necessarily athletic in the air, but so they do seem to have a good connection. And I like that late in the game, you can bring on a smart player who knows positioning, who understands where to be to make an impact on the game.
And won't be intimidated by the moment, right? Because he's been through this tournament.
Yeah. And he's played in a lot of big moments with Finland too. All right. Shout out the Scandinavian countries. I will never forget what you did for us.
So Finland are not Scandinavian. They're Nordic, but not Scandinavian.
That's what I meant. I'm very sorry, Finland. Sweden, I'm sorry as well. I feel like there's probably more Nordic countries.
You're not apologizing to Norway or Denmark?
You know what? Denmark doesn't deserve it. They feel Scandinavian in spirit. Norway, I am sorry. I do apologize. Shout out Stefan Johansson. Going to talk about Norwegian players, all right?
Nobody wanted to talk about Norwegian players right now.
Shout out 2022 QPR, baby. All right, Tim.
You're alone on that one, man.
When I start bringing that up, that's when it's time to wrap up the show. Anything you want to get off before we go?
No, once the QPR comes out, I'm going to head for the hills.
Thanks so much for being here. As always, it means the world, the support, the listens, all that kind of good stuff. It goes a long way for us. If you could stay tuned, meninred97.com. That's where we'll keep you updated. Jesus, I apologize. That's where we'll keep you updated on all the latest and greatest in Chicago Fire breaking news coverage and analysis. So stay tuned to meninred97.com. While you're there, go ahead and subscribe to the hotline. It's a weekly newsletter delivered to your email inbox every Monday. We'll keep you, again, tied into everything you may have missed on the site, as well as potentially a fresh new perspective or two to go along with it. It's completely free. We're not selling your data. It's purely so we can stay in contact with you. So if you go ahead and give us a subscribe there, we would genuinely appreciate it. Again, you can find that at meninred97.com. There's a big red subscribe button in the top right corner. Click that. It's a very easy process. And then wherever you're listening to this, if you could go ahead, give it a like, a rate, a share, a subscribe. And then if you're not listening on YouTube, go ahead, go over to youtube.com/meninred97. Or if you're on your phone, go to YouTube app, meninred97. If you give us a subscribe there, if you don't mind listening to the podcast there, it's a good place to catch it. You can also watch in full video if that's something that would interest you. Maybe you want to put us up on your TV so you can look at our faces all big and stuff. That could be fun too.
Why? Why? Make better choices.
Just for fun. You know what? Do it. Anyway, it does go a long way, though. It's a great way to kind of grow the organic reach of the show. If you're able to do so, we would certainly appreciate that. That kind of takes us to a good spot. So thank you so much once again for being here, for joining us. For Tim, for our illustrious producer, Austin, I'm John. Thanks again for joining us around the bonfire. Come on, you Men in Red.